Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunakto Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vitvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The prayer that I just chanted is the opening prayer of this Upanishad. Okay? So I shall recite one more time for you to just look at the English transliteration. The English transliteration. So you have the Devanagari and you have the transliteration which is below the Devanagari. Devanagari is the Sanskrit script. You have the English script below that called transliteration. So I shall recite and you can just listen until you learn with Swamiji. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vitvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So this is the prayer, and this is a prayer chanted at the opening of every session, and it's a prayer chanted by the teacher and the taught. And there is a reason for it, and you will see the reason why. It begins with the word Om, and Om is looked upon as the most auspicious word indicating the infinite. Om has many meanings, which couple of them will be revealed in this text itself. But overall, Om is a word indicating the infinite. It's a phonetic sound, Om, and it's very symbolic. Being phonetic, it transcends languages. A phonetic sound is a sound which is connected to your voice apparatus. So, an Om has components, A, U, M. These three component vowels, when they come together, you get Om phonetically. And so, it is looked upon as a universal sound to indicate the infinite being. So we begin anything auspicious, we always say Om, Om Namo Narayanaya. So it's a way to greet, or any prayer, any mantra begins with Om. So Om Sahana Vavatu. This word Sahana Vavatu, the Sa refers to the divine. Ha is indeed, all right? Indeed, He, the divine. Sa, Ha. Sa, Ha. He, indeed means the divine indeed. Now avatu. Now avatu is nav avatu. Avatu is protect. Now is us. May the divine protect us. How would he protect us? By giving us self-knowledge. There's no better protection for the soul than the soul recognizing, owning up its essential nature. There's no better empowerment than that, to know who you are, who you really are. And so, may his protection come to us in the form of self-knowledge is the first line. And then we say, Saha now bhunaktu. And so, Saha, the second word Saha, means together. Together. May he give us both. Now is us, you and me. May he give us both the result of that knowledge. Bhunaktu means may he nourish us. Nourishment is giving the result of that knowledge. Let the knowledge not sit as an academic pursuit or as one of these objective sciences. It is knowledge of me, and therefore that knowledge must have its impact in my life. So may he nourish us with that impact of the knowledge. Saha viryam karavavahai. So Saha, again together, viryam. Let us both put effort. Viryam is, let us have the courage. Let us put the effort to comprehend from the side of the student. Let there be proper effort. May I not get frustrated. May I not get irritated, May I not feel incapable or insufficient, that this is not for me. May I not make quick conclusions that deny me the self-knowledge. This is from the standpoint of the student, and from the standpoint of the teacher. May I give this knowledge with courage, with the way it is meant to be given in the tradition. There is a methodology of teaching Vedanta. That methodology is what the tradition provides us. So traditional Vedantic teachings have a certain quality to it. There are certain master keys we unlock when we reveal one's essential nature, and there is a way to do it you learn from the lineage, from the tradition. And therefore, a Vedanta teaching cannot be given by somebody who hasn't learned traditionally, because the master key is with the tradition. And there are certain stipulations, certain tools, certain ways in which you use words. Every word spoken counts. Every word that is not spoken also counts. It's not about just creating synonymous words and dumping big words into you, and then we all get blissed out. Such things don't happen in real life. It's about presenting truth for what it is in its simplest way, because truth is simple. It is as is. And so there is no embellishments or adjectives to truth. What they say in the English language, calling a spade, right? And so presenting truth for what it is. And that takes a certain skill with language, because the teaching is given through words. And so, wielding the words in a manner where you protect the tradition and use the tools is really a gift. And in that, the teacher also prays that may that all come to me when I give the teachings. The student prays, may I have the courage to make my commitment to be a disciple, even if it's for only 1 week. It doesn't matter. What matters is the attitude with which I listen. The attitude. If I'm here to check out the teacher, then the knowledge will not sink. It is so subtle that it is the receptacle that really counts, And of course the teacher, but the recipient, his receptacle must be ready. It's like when you go to the ocean, you want to bring back water with you, and you carry your bucket. And if the bucket is already full, what can you get? If the mind is already cluttered, if the mind cannot suspend its conclusions and judgments, and it's not open, then there is no receptivity of a disciple. And therefore, let me have the courage to have the right attitude so that these teachings really come to me. So that faith, we call this in the language, faith. I sit with faith that suspending my own judgments. If I cannot do that, it becomes difficult, Difficult because if you have your conclusions about philosophy of life, what it is, you have made your own. Of course, we all are philosophers in our own way. But for now, you suspend, just suspend, shelf it for now, so that your receptivity is not affected. If you keep your philosophy with your perspective of your philosophy, if you listen to me, then what happens is, what happens? You will be checking whether I am aligning to your philosophy or not. If I am, you say, yeah, she's making sense. And if I'm not, I'm not sure if I'm going to take that. So at the end of a session, what will you learn new? You will only go back confirming some things and deleting some other things. And that is not the approach of a disciple. A student is one who sits with a blank slate. I'm not saying you drop your conclusions, I'm saying suspend. Expecting you to drop will be a little too much. I'm being more pragmatic. Just suspend for 1 week. Just give me 1 week. You have come all the way. I want to be able to deliver the best to you. So for which I need your receptacle to be available to me. And so kindly suspend whatever belief system you come with, you have grown with, and let us see what this has to offer. And at the end of it, in the process itself, you will know. You will know. Interestingly, sometimes later you don't have to drop. Whatever is incorrect, your mind will drop. Whatever was okay, you will continue to hold on to. So it has a very subtle way of impacting on a person, yeah? And so, saha viryam karavavahai Tejasvinau adhitamastu. This is a prayer of a student. And what is that? Tejasvinau means, let my grasp be good. Whatever I have learnt, adhitam, whatever I have learnt, astu, may it become tejasvinau. May it become brilliant. May it be assimilated. Learning always has a threefold process. One is grasping. Number two, retaining. Number three, bringing it forth to make it available as and when required. No? First receiving, retaining, and then reliving it. I receive, but by the time the session is over and I go for breakfast and come back, oh, what did we learn this morning? In a situation like that, I'll have to be always starting from A, I'll never be able to move forward. And therefore, we pray that we are able to retain what we have learned, for which note writing helps, having a book, putting down points, going to your room, elaborating, so that tomorrow when you go back, you see the flow of your learning. Okay? And when I learn like that, when time comes to use this, it's available to me. I'm able to recall the teachings because I have spent time to assimilate. If I do not spend time to assimilate what I have learned, then when I need it, it's not available to me. And so it's not about learning Vedanta, is not about just listening to a teacher. It's about taking it in. It's about processing it internally, expressing it in writing so that you see the gaps or the clarity with which you are able to jot down the flow of the learning. And in doing so, you are also now ready to access from within what you have learned. So this threefold process is what makes the knowledge radiate in your life. Tejasvinau adhitamastu. Whatever I have learned, may it become brilliant. May my life radiate the teachings. Yeah? That is what is meant here. And of course, the teacher also says, whatever I learned, may it be available to me to give it to the disciple. Ma vidvishavahai. Ma means never. May there never be what? Hatred between the teacher and the taught. May our relationship never become sour. May there never be resentment. May there never be hurt. May there never be anything that creates a wall between my teacher and me. Very, very, very important. Why? Because if the teacher is the source of helping you access your higher self, the divinity, if a time comes and you reject your teacher, it's very difficult to hold on to the teachings and reject the teacher, Although we can say objectively, take the teachings and forget about the teacher. People learn yoga and never acknowledge the tradition. I have seen many, many communities do that. The traditions where generations together this was taught for thousands of years. And we have it available to us in the world today, and if we don't even say thank you to them, it doesn't bless as it is meant to bless. And therefore, we ask for, always in humility we move forward. And so with the teacher and taught, the relationship is very, very important. That bonding is very important, where you feel connected. And of course, in the process of bonding, there could be challenges, there could be distortions. In the relative plane, we always distort our intentions with each other, don't we? And so distortions could happen, but in the larger picture, we are able to bounce back to the core. We must be able to drop little things that don't really matter and hold on to the bigger picture that really counts in our life. From a teacher's perspective also, the teacher needs to respect the students. If you remember in your school days, I remember a couple of teachers who had no respect for the children. And if the teacher doesn't respect you, you may just sit there in the class because you have no choice, but you will never receive anything from this person, And why? Because then they don't respect you, you sense, and you have no reason to listen to them. And therefore, it's important that the teacher also has respect for the student, trust the student's intelligence, comprehension, the eagerness to learn, and the capacity to learn. These are things the teacher must honor. If I conclude, what do they know? What can they know? If I conclude like that, I cannot open my mouth. Nothing will come from my heart, from my soul. Why? Because both sides, the reverence, honoring the sanctity of the relationship, is a journey that both you and I have chosen to undertake. And so, Ma vidvishavahai. Having said that, the prayer concludes with threefold Shanti. Shanti is peace. Om, let there be peace, let there be peace, let there be peace. We always say, why 3 times? Just say once, I heard you. Why twice, why thrice? Well, that's because the tradition declares there are 3 sources of unrest. One source of unrest is you yourself. The body needs to be at rest. If the body itself is uncomfortable, then you will be always adjusting yourself, and the mind attention is drawn on your aches and pains and whatnot. And where am I going to be able to focus on the learning? And therefore, when we come to any class, we do our prayer. The first Shanti, let there be peace of my body and my mind. Yeah, I mustn't worry about my home that I left behind. I must not worry about that little adapter I left at the airport, by mistake. So things like that, my mind is so funny. Where I'm supposed to sit, it doesn't sit. Physically I sit, but mentally I am all over the world. That's not a great situation for learning, and therefore receptivity means peace at the level of the body-mind-sense complex. That's called Adhyatmika Shanti. Peace connected to my body-mind-sense complex. Number 2, peace connected to my environment. If you're in New York City, Fifth Avenue, and you want to study Vedanta with all the noises and whatnot on the street, how are we going to go within? The environment must be conducive. Well, you're very, very fortunate. I cannot give you a more conducive environment in the Himalayan heights, in a forest land, than what we have. Well, maybe, Ammaji, you could make it a little warmer here. I may have to buy up the whole, the electrical department, to get cables here and make this place warm. The best situation is when the environment supports your learning. If the environment doesn't, they become a distraction. Third, ashanti or unrest can emerge from elements which are out of my control. My immediate environment I can regulate a little bit, I can move away or do whatever, but there are elements. There could be heavy rain, there could be snow, there could be earthquake, there could be anything. I don't want to scare you. We don't expect anything, but sure, anything can happen anytime, anywhere. And so, seeking peace from the higher world, I'm about to undertake a very sacred journey for my soul. Please remain, give me my time. Don't create any unrest at the higher levels. And so, 3 times we recite Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. This is the opening prayer, and with this opening prayer we begin the text. All right? So I shall recite, you can listen. This is the Veda, and as I mentioned, it's over 10,000-year-old revelations that are with us today. What is here with us in the form of print book has been an oral tradition. And so it is a recitation that we emphasize, we focus on, and I shall recite the opening verse of the Katopanisad. Om Prathamadhyaye Prathamavalli Ushan Havai Vajashravasah Sarva Vedasam Dadau Tasyaha Nachiketha Nama Putra Asa Ushan Havai Vajashravasah Sarva Vedasam Dadau Tasyaha Nachiketha Nama Putra Asa. So you can look at the first section, page number 9. The verse begins from there. The text begins from there. And here, this Upanishad is very, very, every Upanishad is beautiful, but Katopanishad is especially beautiful for us because it teaches you through a very vivid storyline. It's a very classical way of teaching. All these Upanishads in the teachings are presented not as statements, but they are presented as dialogues. Dialogue between the teacher and the taught. In Sanskritam we will say a dialogue between the guru and the shishya, the teacher and the taught. So guru shishya samvada in Sanskritam, meaning a dialogue between the teacher and the taught. And this dialogue that we have, the whole Upanishad moves in a dialogue, all right? And why do you have it as a dialogue? Why do you not have it as a text? You read the text. No. Because in a dialogue, there is immediacy. There is immediacy of learning. When the teacher and the taught dialogue is there, and you are in a context where there is a teacher and you are the taught, there is an immediacy of understanding, and therefore to make the teachings simpler, clearer, all the Vedantic teachings are seen in terms of teacher-student dialogues. And when we have commentators, we have commentaries in Sanskritam on all these texts, which are with us for thousands of years. Adi Shankara is said to have lived in the 5th century. And his commentaries in Sanskritam we have. While giving the commentary also, if there is some point he feels needs to be clarified from the text, what they do is they create an opponent. They create an opponent who has a logic against what is being said in the text. And then the answer comes, elaborating the text. Again, if something needs to be clarified, they create another opponent. So the opponent and the clarification becomes the second level of dialogue. That's how we elaborate, we expand, we expound, we dilate the teachings through opponent and the answer. That's why you will find a Vedanta teacher never, ever shies away from any questions. Whatever questions you wish to ask, if a teacher cannot or does not answer, that is, I have yet to see. A good teacher of Vedanta is one who will answer any questions about life, about afterlife, about whatever, because the Veda gives you all that knowledge. And so it's about question and answer. Being knowledge, if it's preaching, then there is no question answer. A preacher is different from a teacher. A teacher wants his student to understand what he teaches, to assimilate, to imbibe. A preacher, of course, preaches, but his commitment as a teacher's commitment is to removing doubts, while the teaching is on, you remove doubts that could emerge, that may emerge, and later again keep removing doubts in satsangs and so on, is a commitment of a teacher to a student. That is not so for a preacher. They will preach and they go away. You receive what you will and what you won't. It's in your hands to receive. In receiving knowledge, it is not in your hands. Either you got it or you didn't get it. If you didn't get it, then again you learn until you get it. Because knowledge is true to the truth. It is not dependent on a human being to interpret. If I call this a clock, you cannot call this an elephant. It's not for you to interpret what this is, what truth is as it is, true to the object. And so the truth of the self is true to the self. It's not for the mind to distort or to interpret in its own ways. And so when in the process of learning, there are doubts that emerge, there are questions that emerge, there are vagueness, the teacher makes it a point to sort it out with the helping the students sort these questions out. And so this is the way it is done. And hence a samvada or a dialogue is the method of teaching self-knowledge. All right? And so the Upanishads guide us. The Veda guides us. And to this day, this is the method adopted by the tradition. Another reason why we have dialogues, we say this is the way our tradition has taught us, that if I teach you today is because I sat there at some point in my life when my teacher was here. So every teacher is a student of his teacher, who is a student of his teacher, who is a student of his teacher, who is a student of her teacher, who is a student of his teacher, who is a student of her teacher. That is the lineage, the teaching lineage. But Ammaji, how far back are you going to go? The whole class will be gone. No. We keep going until that student of his teacher, who was a student of his teacher, who was a student? No. You can only stop at a source which did not need to become a student of somebody else. When the source itself had knowledge, that source was never a student of another teacher. That means what? The source, this can only stop where the beginning point was not in ignorance. You sit before me because there is self-ignorance. I sat before my teacher because there was self-ignorance. A student is a student whose starting point is self-ignorance. And so if you're looking for a culminating source of a teacher, that teacher cannot be a student of another teacher because his beginning point is not in self-ignorance. Means what? That means that source is a source which ever had the knowledge, and that knowledge source we call omniscience or omniscient being or the infinite being. And so these teachings have come to us from the omniscience itself. That means from the divine. That's why it's called revelations. It's called revelations. And so when you learn as a dialogue, it is also implied that the lineage goes back to the infinite being, to the divine, who chose to give this to some people. In fact, it is said there were 4 sages, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanat Kumara, Sanat Sujata, who then taught to their disciple, who then taught to their disciple, who taught to their disciple, and that's how the oral tradition has come down, and today we are here continuing that same process. And so, this is the reason why we have the Upanishads presented as a dialogue. These are very important for the tradition to express. Not only that, in the process of presenting the guru and the disciple, in the story you will find, you understand what is the attitude of a disciple. When the Upanishad presents a disciple, his name is Nachiketha. What is his attitude? How does he approach a teacher? How does the teacher respond? What is his qualities? Qualities of the teacher and the taught both get highlighted, which helps us in knowing what qualifies me to be a student. Okay? And so the context of a dialogue is important in being able to highlight these points. Finally, we say, praise of the self-knowledge is done. In the teachings itself, anything. It's like you want to buy a car in the showroom, You just want to look at simple things, especially when I want to get something for the ashram. I have a preference of some colors, which I will not take, which I will take, and some basic comfort level for the passenger and so on. And you go with that mind. Then what happens? Then you meet the salesman. And he talks to you as if you're going to buy the showroom, He has such eloquence about every part of the machinery that moves the engine and the brake and this and that and which part came from which country and how. And he goes on and on trying to convince you. You're already convinced. I tell them, I'm convinced I need a car. I have a list, does your car do blah, blah, blah. But they want to really, really glorify their brand, their company, their dealership and all of that. So glorifying something is the way of a human mind. So in the text you will find glorification of self-knowledge also, so that your attention is drawn towards it. And so these are the few points to note as we enter into the text. And our time is up. So in the next session, in a few minutes, we will start the first verse. Okay, we will stop here for now, and I shall close with a prayer. Om Sarva Mangala Mangalye Shive Sarvartha Sadhake Sharanye Trembake Gauri Narayani Namostute. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.